that time of year when we start to think about what we can do for gifts. And if you're like me, you probably should have thought about it last summer when you had a lot of produce coming off the garden, but you didn't until it was getting much closer to the holiday season. So what I'm going to do today is something that you have on hand, and if you didn't grow them in your garden, there's widely available at a low cost, and that you can use to make a Christmas gift, and that would be onion relish. Now for this, I'm going to use 1 1/4 cups of white vinegar. With all pickles, you need to make sure that you check the acidity on the vinegar, that you don't use homemade vinegar. It needs to be at least 5% acidic. And for this one, I'm using a white distilled vinegar because I'm going to be using onions, which are also white, and I want the color to come through as white. If you don't care about that, or if you want a different color, you're welcome to use any other kind of vinegar as long as you make sure that it's got the 5% acidity. Now to that, I'm also going to add 1 1/4 cups of sugar, because this is a fairly sweet product. This is also a product that works really well if you're, again, like me, and I've also found many other people across the state of Oklahoma who are like this, who love bread and butter pickles for the onions. They really don't care about the cucumber part, they really want the onions, so this works real well. Also to this, I'm adding a teaspoon of pickling salt. Now this is a very small amount of pickling salt, and it will impact flavor. It will also do a little bit to improve texture, but most of the improvement on texture is going to come from the sugar. That's what's going to hold it firm in this case. So if you chose to leave that out, you could do so. If you're not going to leave it out, I would go ahead and use the pickling salt rather than table salt, because the table salt does have some anti-caking agents that can cause cloudiness later on, and then you don't know if you have spoilage, and the cloudiness is a sign of spoilage, or if it's simply because you have the caking salt or the regular table salt in there. I also have a teaspoon of mustard seed and 2 teaspoons of dried tarragon. I'm going to bring that to a boil real briefly. It won't take very long in this large surface area of a kettle. And to this, as soon as it comes to a boil, I'm going to add 8 cups of sliced onions. Now you can use either white onions or yellow globe onions. Either one will work fine. Again, I would probably not use red onions because of the change in color. If you're going to use red onions, you may want to consider using a different kind of vinegar, either a red vinegar or a balsamic vinegar or something else to see what happens in a small amount. This only makes 3 pints, so you're not going to have a lot at any one time that you have to worry about. Now, one of the reasons people don't like to work with onions is because they make them cry. And the reason that they make you cry is because there's a sulfur compound in the onions that's very volatile, and when you cut it, you release it, and that comes up in the air as a gas. It comes in contact with the water in your eye and turns into a mild sulfuric acid, which irritates your eye and makes your eye cry. Now, one of the nice things about trying to avoid that, or one of the things you can do, is that there's more of that compound down in the root end of the onion. So if onions are terribly prone to making you cry, one of the things you can do is to start at the non-root end, start cutting up there, and work your way down, and when you get down to the other end, then you get somebody else in your family to do the rest of the cutting, or you're not going to cry as long because there's not as much left. You can also refrigerate the onions briefly. Now, refrigerating them for long periods of storage is not recommended, but for a couple of hours just to get them chilled down, and then you can go ahead and slice them, and that makes the compound less volatile, and you're much less apt to cry as well. Now, these onions have been partially treated ahead of time. They were simply peeled and sliced, and then I covered them with boiling water, returned it to a boil, and let them boil for 2 minutes. Then drain them well, and you would want to proceed with this as quickly as you can. Now, another thing I'd like to remind you always when you're making pickles is to wear clothes that are not your favorites, because you are working with vinegar, which is going to act in many respects, if it gets in touch with your clothing, just the same way bleach would, and bleach out little spots. So either wear an apron or something that you don't mind so much if it gets damaged, because any kind of splashing on this is going to result in some spots on your clothes. This you're going to want to bring back to a boil. It's then going to boil for about 3 minutes. And I'm going to proceed with this. This would boil for 3 minutes, remember. Bring it back and go ahead with there. Then, once that's taken place, you're then going to put it into home canning jars. These are half pint jars if you want to give smaller amounts, if you're less generous with people, or you have people with smaller families, maybe an individual alone who would you like to give it to. You could put it in a half pint jar. There's no reason not to do that. You want to make sure that you pretty much divide the solids. This is going to soften up a little bit more as it cooks for the 3 minutes, but most of the softening that enables you to pack it has taken place already when you processed it for the first 2 minutes of boiling time. Now you have a couple of options at this point. If this is something that you're going to actually serve at holiday meals to your own guests rather than give away, you don't actually have to process it in a water bath canner if you can use it within a couple of months, say. It will keep refrigerated for that length of time. And I think I've probably got more onions than I can use in this one right here. And I'm not going to be able to get them out easily. Okay, let's try this. See if I can find some smaller pieces. If you're going to process it in a water bath canner, you want to make sure that you fill it up with the solids and the liquids to about the ½ inch mark on the jar. You then want to wipe the rim of the jar, make sure that all the liquid is submerged. You also want to pop the bubbles so that you have the air space or the air pockets out of it, and you do that by using a rubber knife. Now this one is not filled enough, but you want to run that around the outside edges so that you pop any bubbles that might be there. Clean the top with a paper towel and some nice clean water. Then pop the lid on here, put the screw band on, and process it in a boiling water bath canner for 10 minutes. This jar does not need to be sterilized because you're going to process it for 10 minutes, so it can go like that. Again, this was what you would do if you were giving it as a gift. Once they came out, it's a good idea to decorate the jar a little bit with maybe a little piece of calico fabric so that they look a little bit nicer as gifts when you give them away. But this is something that you still do. You still have time. It's not particularly expensive. And if you've got some onion lovers out there, it makes a great gift. For Oklahoma Gardening, this is Barbara Brown.
We hope you enjoyed this video. It's part of our OK Gardening Classics YouTube channel. You can also find more recent videos on our Oklahoma Gardening YouTube channel. And join us on social media for great gardening tips, photos, and discussion.